some love. Millie's like, hello, I'm here. Stylist, Rox Brown. There we go. And musician, Ivy Sole. We're going to be talking about how they each have been taking steps to pursue levels of championship success in their own lanes and what steps they're each taking to own the game. You guys ready for this? All right. So let's get started. There's nothing like that first ring, that moment, especially in sports, when an athlete achieves that success that really helps them become who they are. I feel like a lot of the times the hard work is on the court, and a lot of people don't get to see that, the work that really goes behind that. So I want to know what each of these ladies does that essentially doesn't get seen. You guys ready for this? Let's go. So Rox, can you think of that moment that felt like that first ring that made you say, okay, I'm here? Sorry. Got to turn on the mic.
My moment of feeling like I got my first ring is literally right there. Sir,
Yes.
if you could just move over a little bit. So that's my Air Jordan 1, and it's very special to me because it gave me a chance to tell my story. It's just like there's one thing being an influencer and being like a stylist, and people know about you and people look at your work and they feel inspired, but no one ever got a chance to hear the story. So when I got a chance to do that Air Jordan 1, it was really special because my mom is from Jamaica. We came here when I was really young. We didn't really have anything. And one thing I always wanted was Jordans, and we couldn't afford them. So going to school, all the kids had Jordans, and not saying that, you need material things to feel special, but as a kid, that's you want the hot stuff. So I couldn't afford it. And the day I got that Jordan, it was like amazing because one, I could go to my mom and like, hey, I have a Jordan now. You know what I mean? Like you sacrificed all of this for me, and now I have a Jordan. And then it gave me a chance to tell my story to other people who are probably going through the same thing, had difficult childhoods, like being poor, whatever the case may be. It's like no matter where you come from, you can do this too. You know what I mean? And whatever struggles you're going through is just building character for your Jordan moment.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. That's a beautiful story. Let's give her some snaps. I like snaps. MJ, Rox, this is also for you. MJ brought so much personality to the court. What's the relationship for you between style and greatness?
Being yourself. For me, like I am who I am. I don't dim that down for anybody. Like what you see is what you get. And there's other women who are like me, you know what I mean, that don't want to dim their light, who don't want to dumb it down. So it's all about being yourself and owning your lane and being who you are. Can you give me the second part of the question? Because I forgot. I was talking too much.
What's the relationship for you between style and greatness?
And that makes you great because you become a leader. You become a leader. It's literally that. It's just like I said, there's other women who are just like you, who like the things that you like, and they might be scared to step out of the shadows because it's just like, I'm nervous. What if people don't accept me? And you could be the leader. You can make them comfortable, and you can, uplift other women around you. So that.
Thank you for that. Ivy, what's the moment that you felt like you could forge your own path through music?
It was actually really recently. I just quit my full-time job in December to, thank you, to pursue musicianship and entrepreneurship full-time. So really just getting to the moment where betting on yourself pays off. I think a lot of people are really, really nervous to kind of take the plunge, and I actually worked a full-time job for 3 years after graduating from school because I was scared as HE double hockey sticks to just trust that I could figure it out. And I'm glad that I did because, I was able to put that money into music and to invest in myself in ways that I probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise. But yeah, just really recently, just a couple months ago, I was able to, strike out on my own and do the independent music thing for myself.
That's where it starts. You got to believe in yourself. Is there a parallel between on-stage performance and what athletes do on the court?
Absolutely. I grew up here in Charlotte, and Charlotte is a huge sports town, and North Carolina is a huge sports state. I grew up playing AAU basketball, and basketball in our public schools. And the preparation that is required of athletes is the exact same preparation that is required of musicians, if they're good. I mean, because
what are the moments that you feel like, as a musician, this is the big game?
Every time you step on stage, because every time you step on stage, there's an opportunity to change some person's mind from being a passive listener into an active fan. And the difference between that is literally dollars in your pocket. Yes, and I can't afford not to have dollars in my pocket. So
me either. I'm over here trying. Melody, we can actually be literal right now about talking about rings, and that's what she does. How many she has in her hand right now. But all jokes to the side, when was the moment you knew you had an exciting future ahead in your business?
When was the moment I knew? Well, I don't know if I ever knew I had an exciting future ahead of my business, but I knew, I think the moment when I figured out who I was, I think was the moment where I was like, oh, I could live off this. And that was when I bet on myself. It was kind of like, I came from a really traditional family that believed in certain things, and I dropped out of law school, and it was like I was going from this really noble profession to something that my family thought was really superficial, and I thought it was superficial too, because I was like, I'm gonna change the world, and I'm gonna fight for human rights and women's rights, and then now I'm gonna go from that to like making stuff. And I think the moment when that shifted and I saw the nobility in what I was naturally gifted in, that, oh, I can actually use this medium and still do all those things, like use it to empower women and to change the world. It's just my own specific way. As soon as that clicked for me and I saw the nobility in that, then it was a moment where I was like, I could do this.
I like that. From then and now, is growing and thriving a business the same energy as starting one?
Yes, because a business is like a child, and it's continually evolving. I remember when I was starting my business, I was kind of like a baby, where I'd say yes to everything. Anybody that wanted to do anything, I was like, yes, I'll do it for you. What do you want? I'll make it for you. And then I went through my toddler stages, where kids like become toddlers and they're like, no, at everything. And I literally became a toddler, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'm not that. And, so it's literally like a child, where you're constantly, as a person, evolving, and as a woman especially, because we don't have a lot of examples of women-owned and run businesses. So it's different because we don't have references in the same way, because males operate differently. It's not good or bad, right or wrong, it's just different. And so a lot of times you really have to go deep and find that reference for yourself. And so that's ever evolving.
Yes. Can you give us some perspective from the vantage point of success?
You know what? To me, success is waking up every day and doing what you love and being sustained by it in the world, Just the fact that I get to wake up and make shit, and I get to work with cool people, and that to me is really, like, sometimes I still pinch myself, like, I can't believe I actually get paid to do this, or I'm here, and to me that's like the ultimate success.
Yes, it is. And greatness is done daily, day in and day out. Melody, can you give us insight of your habits and your practices? These are all for you, so prepare. We want to know a lot about Melody, of your successful entrepreneurship.
Wow, this is so layered. So I think that as I've grown up, it's sort of my awareness has expanded.
I love
that. I didn't realize all the things that it took, and I still probably don't. But I'll share with you one of the most recent ones is I realized how connected my diet is to how I show up in the world. And it's weird because before that I had never connected the two, but I went through this period where I was like, okay, I want to grow my business. I want to actively grow my business. And I was speaking to my friend, and she was like, do you think your body can take that on? And I was like, that is a really interesting question. And it actually couldn't. And I don't even eat bad. But every day my energy would dip at certain times, and I wasn't really eating the best. And so the first thing that I did was I cut sugar out, like cane sugar, which is the white devil. And it literally changed my entire life, where I had so much energy throughout the day. I wouldn't dip like I usually would. And every time I'd dip, I'd need to have coffee or something sweet or whatever. And my brain became so much clearer, where I had the capacity to make more decisions. Whereas before I would just sort of like push things so that I'd like shelf things. I was like, I can't deal with that now. I can only deal with this. And so eating for me, not that diet is a prototype, but when you figure out the foods that like really serve you, it really determines what you're available for in the world and what you're available to do. And so I know it seems unrelated, but there's so many things about your environment that are really connected to how successful you want to be and what you want to sign up for and what you're able to do. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's actually very true. I feel like a lot of people don't often think about that. Like when we talk about being right, like it includes everything. Like our body has to be right. Our minds have to be right. So what we're intaking like really matters. So thank you for sharing that, Melody. I'm still going at you. For those of us out there with ambitions of our own, do you think that habits of success are something that can be learned?
Absolutely. I learned every single one of them. I'm the first woman in my family to ever graduate from school, period. And yes. And I literally had to unlearn every single thing I learned growing up, and all of us come from deep cultures, like deep history. It's just history. And for a lot of us, like we're the first generation that's breaking history with like what our moms have done and what our grandmothers have done and what our great-great-grandmothers have done. Like literally every single woman before me in my family just repeated the same patterns. And so whenever I do anything that feels authentic to me, at first it feels wrong, where I'm like, oh shit, this is danger. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to have a voice. Am I supposed to make this money? Really? Or I'm still like not married. Is this okay? And so it's all these like cultural things that are like literally in your DNA that you have to go up against. And it takes a lot of inertia to go up against, but you have to unlearn them and really find that voice in you that's like, what is you? Like, because each of us are a design. Like, we're a design, and we're meant to unfold in the world as we are. That's how you serve the world. It's like unfolding. But we're so used to just repeating because it's safer. It's so much safer to repeat history than it is to unfold it or create it. And so every single thing is an unlearning and a relearning and a experimenting process.
Yes, it is. And sometimes that is scary, the unlearning. But that just the knowing of unlearning, if anybody takes anything from what she's saying, go ahead, sit with yourself, and think about those things that you were taught and try to unlearn them. It's pretty scary, but it's the most refreshing feeling. Once you're like, okay, I could do this. And I don't have to do it that way. I can do it my own way. Thank you, Melody. All right, Rox. The appearance of effortlessness is so important to style. Do you think of it as daily practice, and is it a constant process for you? Just keep it on.
So I feel like I get effortlessness is just being yourself. You don't have to try to be yourself. You're already you. And I think that in society these days, we get caught up in trying to fit into the trend, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to look like. Like Melody said, we're going up against a lot of things that just everyone's telling you who you're supposed to be, So being effortless is about being who you are and being comfortable with yourself and doing that. That's all it takes.
Perfect. Ivy, what could you do to keep yourself in tune creatively? And is this connected to the idea of musical practice literally, or is it more of a holistic lifestyle?
It's definitely a holistic lifestyle, I think. I'm really blessed to be able to do a multitude of creative things in my life. So I actually own an event management music label situation. We just do a bunch of cool shit and kind of call it a label. It's called LaFleur.
Don't say trying to call it a label. It is a label. There's no trying.
It's definitely a label, but we do so much more, girl. We do so much more. It's all over the place. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really like grateful to be able to get my creativity and my inspiration from a lot of different places. So I wouldn't say it's like daily practice with music, even though I am 100% writing and practicing my instruments daily, but it's mostly just being able to actually practice creativity in the real world that has allowed me to stay in tune with myself.
Perfect. Is there a balance between performance and creation? And do you create in long focused periods, or does the inspiration strike randomly?
Yeah, no, that was a question. That was really a question. Yeah, it's a question, right? So I actually prefer to kind of withhold myself from creating so that I can take large chunks of time to create at a separate time. I get a lot of inspiration. I listen to a decent amount of music, get inspired by, you know, the old heads, the greats, the new cats, and then take like 2 or 3 weeks away from everything and then try to make an album or try to make an EP. But yeah, like that was a question, girl. Like,
sorry.
She's trying to make this like a panel.
This is a random
panel.
question, just on music. Like, what other artists are you paying an ear right now to?
Ooh, I love this question. I am in love with Lucky Day.
Okay.
He's an R&B artist, currently signed to RCA or like through Keep Cool. Obviously her, who just won 2 Grammys.
She's
and my
amazing.
mother is obsessed with her, so I feel like maybe I shouldn't be, so you know what I'm saying? Locally in Charlotte, Austin Royale, lovely Autumn Rainwater, who's with us today.
Okay.
Yeah, just like I'm 10 toes down for R&B and hip hop, so that's where most of my loves lie.
Thank you. I love music, so I was just trying to pick your brain about that.
Oh,
so.
no problem, girl. Anytime.
And this is for all of you. Is it easy from the outside to see only the celebratory moments of success, but could you talk about some of the hard work that people maybe don't get access to? That behind the scene type of stuff.
I can go if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my Instagram makes my life look great. Like,
Doesn't
my
it for all of
Instagram
us?
looks poppin'. But like 90% of my job is like answering emails and like listening through really bad beats and like trying not to like pull my hair out because a videographer didn't get me something on time, or like the money just not existing at the moment because I am truly indie. Like I'm like every dollar that I'm given, I'm putting back into my art. So like, yeah, like it's extremely easy to like see the wins because that's what everybody wants you to see. But it's also like not as interesting to see me like ripping pages out of my notebook and throwing them in the trash because I hate the verse, you know? So like I like the balance of that for me is difficult, but I couldn't be more thankful and happy to be able to celebrate the wins with folks.
That's great. At least you acknowledge that and you know that, and I feel like a lot of people can also relate to that, where it's like, oh, your life is great. I see you shining on Instagram, like you're doing great. It's like, yeah, you're not seeing everything that's going back here, you know? So that's really good. Rox, Melody?
I think that it's hard. It's like creating, for example, no one can read your thoughts, but when you're a creative, all of your thoughts are coming to life. So you're exposing a part of yourself that no one sees. You know what I mean? So you're putting your thoughts out there. And then, you know, you have the judgment that comes with it. So you're always second guessing what people are gonna think of it, or, you know what I mean? There's always that aspect of it. And sometimes it's hard to just put yourself out there. So that in itself is hard. And then it also like requires a lot of isolation sometimes. Sometimes you have to sit with yourself. You know, you have to really get to know yourself and prepare yourself for what you think success is. Like if you want to be famous, if that's your idea of success, are you ready for all the eyes to be on you? Are you ready for everything that's going to be said about you? You know what I mean? You have to, it's a lot of mental preparation. So I think that people see all the glitz and the glam. It's like, oh, you live a great life. You get to go here and you get to do this and you get to, you know, Instagram looks great. But it's a lot that goes into preparing yourself for those things and just success in general. Getting to know yourself is one of the difficulties that people don't see.
Yeah, that's a really good point. This is where love comes in, and this is why it's so important to like really love what you do. So I always ask people like, what would you do for free? Like, what would you wake up every day and do for free? And that's the thing you want to do, because there's so many times I've had to pivot, and there's so many sacrifices that I've made, and just in terms of life, because I work so much, and you don't even kind of realize it, but it's because I loved what I did so much that I kind of got caught up in it, and I was willing to make those kinds of sacrifices. Whereas if you don't love it, if you don't really love it, there's just like nothing that's going to sustain you enough to be able to keep going forward. There just isn't. Like if I didn't love what I did, I would have stopped doing it so long ago, because it's hard. There's a lot of things where you're like, oh, this is great, and then all of a sudden like the rug gets pulled out from under you, or you have to make a left when you thought you're going to make a right, or it's a lot of unexpected things.
Yes, it is. And speaking about just love and doing what you really want, even along the way, even if you are doing what you love, there's obstacles and there's still setbacks. How do each of you deal with those things?
A setback just means that it wasn't right, So I don't ever take it. I prefer to have a setback than to go forward with something and get a yes, you know what I mean? And it be not what I want, you know what I mean? So I'll take the setback to re-examine and learn and, and then move forward from there. So it's just like, you're going to get no's, there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be detours, but at the end of the day, a detour is going to still take you to the same destination and at the right time.
Anybody else? Yeah? That works for me too. And I'm going to give you guys one little piece that when people do give you the no's, flip that into on. Like, no matter what. Because you're going to hear a lot of no's, and you just got to keep knocking until, that on comes on, and it's going to be right for you. Melody, back to you. How important are consistency and persistence to achieving greatness?
It's really everything. It's like, you guys all know, like, that I fell down 12 times but got up once, or whatever, like all the quotes. And it's kind of corny, but it's true. Like, you really have to be persistent, but I also think you have to be realistic, That's one of the things that I learned early, is that you have to really weigh everything against reality. Like, I understand where my goals are and where I want to get to, but you have to know, like, what you can actually do first. Like, what's that first step? And I always say it's much easier to steer a moving car than it is a still car. So as long as you like just get in the car and drive, like it doesn't matter if you have to make a U-turn or, run out of gas or whatever it is, like you can deal with it once you're on your way. But that makes sense?
It makes sense. Don't get mad because I'm coming back to you some more. Let's get into contribution. Melody, does the community you've created around your workflow back into your own process and inspire new ideas?
Wait, what do you mean? Say that again?
Does the community you've created around your workflow back into your own process and inspire new ideas?
The community that I've created? I'm not sure I understand.
As far as like with your clients.
Oh, do they inspire me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. They definitely inspire me. I mean, it's really cool because my inspirations have always sort of remained the same. They just keep evolving. And it's so cool seeing how people take that inspiration and then interpret it. Like Gabby, right? Like Gabby is wearing a pair of pants that I made, and I'm so honored that she's wearing them. And it's so dope to see like how she put it together, because it's not how I would have put it together necessarily, And that inspires me, because then I'm like, oh, I could maybe flip it this way the next time, or it informs me and inspires me all the time.
I really like that. How important do you think it is for young entrepreneurs to own the game and put themselves in positions of creative control?
Okay, as women, I think it's imperative. I know, it's me again.
We love you, Melody.
I really think it's important to own. I mean, I love that Allen Iverson, how he says, hold your own. I think it's really so important because that quote has inspired me so much in so many different situations and rooms because it just reminds me to be myself. You know, it's like as long as you just hold your own, you really can just move through any kind of situation or any room. And I think it's really important to take ownership of that, you know, to own something. You know, women in this country weren't allowed to own property like less than 100 years ago, which is crazy. You know, so it's like we're kind of embarking on this first era of things. And if you think about it, we've never experienced equality before. Like, isn't that a trip? We've never, in the history of our history, we've never experienced equality. And so it's kind of in my head, it's like, well, if you're not gonna give it to us, then we kind of have to take it, you know? And I feel like, especially at this time, it's really important to have some sort of ownership over what you're creating and what you're doing and who you are. It doesn't even have to be something tangible. It's like, as long as you have ownership over who you are, what your rights are, you know, over your body, over your identity, whatever it is, however you interpret it, it's something that is imperative.
Yes, it is. Ivy, was there ever a shift for you from when you went from being a fan of music to realizing that you had an impact on younger music lovers?
Of course. I think that the transition from becoming like a fan of something to becoming a creator of something is like a very weird situation to be in. There's this really good quote about you get into anything creative because you have good taste, and you start hearing or seeing or wearing what you want, like what you aspire to be. And for a little bit, like you try to make that thing and it's really bad, right? So you're like, wow, like I am trying to be Beyonce and I am barely hitting Michelle right now. Like, and that's it. And like, that's it. But then you start working at it and working at it and working at it, and your taste kind of changes, and then you work at it a little bit more and your taste changes a little bit more. And the moment that I kind of realized that I was able to make an impact was when I started being basically lauded outside of my hometown and outside of the city where I currently live, which is Philadelphia. And people started recognizing the value, like, by booking me for shows or for booking me for these lovely panels or doing those sorts of things. And yeah, I just think that like the process from which you go from a very, very staunch fan of something to being a creator of something, that transition, it takes time, but it's like a beautiful process.
Yes, it is. Musicians have more of an autonomy over their own work and the image than ever before right now. What's your approach on this?
I think the panel honestly should be like themed "Be Yourself," because I feel like every single one of us, to a certain extent, has kind of like
one accord on that.
Yeah, push that that messaging, mostly because it's the easiest way to live your life. Or let me yeah. I won't say easy though, because sometimes getting to who yourself is a difficult process, right? So like
discovery.
Yeah, like self-discovery is like a messy, ugly, like not particularly very like appealing process, but the end goal, the end result is so rewarding and so grounding that I wouldn't trade it for anything. So really, I'm just trying to be the most authentic version of myself every single day and try to make my music reflect that as well, which I think that it does.
Keep doing that. Rox, a style icon often makes their mark by breaking the rules, but you've got to own it. What's the balance for you between this kind of irrelevance and the love you have for fashion? Which part? What's the balance? A style icon often makes their mark by breaking the rules, but you've got it on your own. What's the balance for you between this kind of... irreverence. I said irrelevance. That's maybe why I messed you up. And the love you have for fashion.
It's like you be saying fuck it and just wearing what you want, right? Yeah. Yeah, you.
Basically, what she was saying is, yeah, it's just I just do what I want to do. Like, what are the boundaries? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
there are none.
What is greatness? Like, whose idea of greatness am I following? You know what I mean? Like, if I look in the mirror and I'm like, this is great, then it's great. You know, like, I'm doing it for myself. So I think that's like the theme of this whole situation is be yourself and do what you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, whatever, you're already blessed with the gifts that you're supposed to use to be successful. You know what I mean? And once you tap into it, it's great. You know, so, you know, and like if you're good at it and you love it, you're going to be great at it. So it all goes back to being yourself.
I like this. And we have been talking about a lot of individuality. Rox, we're still on you. How important do you think it is to keep this idea alive as an example to younger generations?
The idea of being yourself?
Yes.
I think it's really important. Like I said, now we're in a time of like social media and like there's all these like crazy beauty standards that little girls have to like try to like live. They're like impossible, you know what I mean? Because one, on the internet, half of it isn't real. Like there's filters, there's Photoshop, there's all these things, and we're portraying this like great fancy life of like everyone's driving a Lamborghini or whatever they're doing, you know what I mean? And it's like, but like what are they doing? You know what I'm saying? Like what are they actually doing? What are you doing to change the world? Like what are you doing to inspire the next generation? Like, you know what I mean? Like what are we inspiring you to like spend money and not save money and not you know have a financial future? You know what I mean? It's like a lot of what's going on in society right now is basically it's imposing negative things on the youth and telling them who they need to be and who they you know, not who they should be, not being a good person, not knowing who they are and not preparing for the future. You know what I mean? It's all about a look, and that's not, I want you guys to know that that's not life. You know what I mean? Live real lives.
That's really good. You actually skipped over a question. That was a follow-up question here.
All right,
but
cool. So
you answered that, so we're going to skip that one. Ivy, can you give any advice to aspiring musicians who feel that their dream may be out of their reach?
I think the first thing is to make good music, and I know that's going to sound wild, right? I know it's going to sound wild that I'm asking aspiring musicians to make good music, but that is quite literally where it starts. And I don't think people put enough time into the actual music that they are releasing, and that is why a lot of people are not moving forward, right? Somebody like Jordan can't put out a wax shoe and be like, I want to be the best shoe company ever. Like the product itself has to be fire before you can market the product. Like the marketing takes care of itself when the product is fire. I'm not saying I'm fire, but like I'm at least good enough so that I can market my music, and then it goes on from there. So like I think focus on like finding who your idols are, finding what sounds that you want to emulate, finding like your people. So like if you are a vocalist, that means finding your producers. If you're a producer, that means finding like that one motherfucker that's gonna really kill it on your beats. Like you find that, and I promise everything else will take care of itself.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything.
Do you think that it's possible now for musicians to own the game in more aspects of the industry than ever before?
100%.
How so?
I am not planning to sign to a label until the label is absolutely necessary. And at this point, because of the advent of the wonderful internet, social media, and honestly a little bit of luck, like you don't actually need the institutions in order to make it happen for yourself. I'm really blessed. Whew, we just signed the paperwork. I just got blessed with a sync deal. So my song is going to be used in a show that's going to be on BET soon.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
It's amazing.
And I was able to do that without a label. It's me and my manager and my agent. That's my entire team. So like, absolutely, 100%. Like, we are cutting the middleman out more than ever. I think that is going to continue for millennia. I hope that we all make Prince proud.
Hey. This is for all of you. Much of Michael Jordan's legacy is about team leadership as well as individual excellence. For each of you, how important important is a team building and team chemistry for your practices? Can't just be I, me. You actually need a team.
I think that in order to be a leader, it's not about telling others how to do it, but it's doing it with them. You know, like you said, you need a team, but then there's someone who has to like take the lead to like push the person next to them forward. And it's not so much of like, oh, like you go get me coffee. It's more like, let's go get coffee together. I'm not saying the coffee thing doesn't matter, but you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, if we're gonna do something, let's do it together. And if I know how to do it a little bit better, while we go do it together, I'll show you how to become better too. So I think, whatever you were saying.
I also think that you have to trust people, and that's something that I have
trust issues.
Yeah, same.
I do.
It's just because like I know how I want it done, but what I've realized very recently is that if I can't explain it to someone the way that I want it done, then I am not doing my job. And if I am trusting them with the task, then I need to trust them with the task, with the instructions that I gave. And if the instructions are subpar, then the product will be subpar as well. So like, for me, it's like, hey, like you gotta trust the folks that you chose, you gotta trust your communication skills, and you gotta trust that the product that you're asking for is what you're gonna get. And it's hard.
Yes, it is.
But it's necessary.
You gotta
like,
do it though.
you know, like you can't be out here like
It's just me,
answering all your emails if you have like a manager and whatnot. Like you can't be like stepping on their toes and like kind of just going outside your lane when you could be focused on whatever creative outlet that you should be doing.
Like that. Melody, back to you. MJ inspired athletes for generations to come. Do you have any interest in being a source of inspiration for young women entrepreneurs coming up in the world of streetwear?
Sure. I mean, I think that I never thought of it that way. You know, I never thought I would be. But I think because, you know, I'm Middle Eastern, I'm Iranian, and there isn't a lot. It's two of us. There isn't a lot of us, and I think I think that you know, for me, inspiration is so important. You know, whenever I see somebody do something, it automatically makes me feel like, oh, it's possible, and maybe I could do that too in my own way. And so if I could do that for anybody, then I feel like my job is done. And I think that that's really, a lot of times it's really a result of inner work, you know, and I try to hold myself to a high standard when it comes to doing my inner work and being accountable for who I am, and I love sharing my discoveries. You know, like whenever I figure something out and I have like a big aha moment, there's nothing more than I love to like share it with people and be like, guess what? Like, for example, there's a lot of things I always tell my team, I'm like, question everything, you know? And one of the things that, like there's all these things that we're taught, right? And one of the things that I kept hearing when I was first starting was like, oh, you gotta pay your dues, you gotta pay your dues. And this is sort of like a really common thing that we hear in society is like, you have to pay your dues. And it's like, well, what if I'm just it? Like, what if I was born to do this thing and I just did it? You know, like why do I have to go through a process or like go, you know, to appease X and check this box off for society or make these people feel comfortable for me being who I am, you know? And so I think that's a myth. Like, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that you need to pay your dues. If you're it, you're it. You're just it. And so when I discover those kinds of things for myself, I feel so empowered by them that I want to share them. And if that's inspiring to other people, then there's nothing that gives me more joy, because I'm like, you see me? Like, let's all do this now, and then we'll, you know, we can evolve faster. We don't have to be stuck in this. And so, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Rox. Thank you, Ivy, for sharing all of this inspiration. I really hope that you all here today are as inspired as I am to continue to achieve your label, whatever level of greatness is to you, continue to do that. And on that note, we have a very special workshop that we're gonna be doing next. So if you guys can help me, please thank these ladies. Give them a round of applause. And please welcome Sasha, Elina, and Alani Figueroa. We're gonna be doing something really, really cool. I don't know how many of you guys have had a chance to do this, but if you haven't ever had a chance to do a vision board, let me tell you, these things are powerful, okay? So really take your time on them, and these ladies are gonna guide you through, and keep looking at them. And when you get to start checking off these things off of your vision board, you're just gonna be like, ah, put it out in the universe. Thank you guys so much for coming out to Social Status. Thank you.